of you ever suffered from depression, or how many of you know somebody who has suffered from depression? Look at the hands in the room. 44% of this country is on an antidepressant. Do you know how we define depression in this country? We define depression as an inadequate supply of the neurotransmitter serotonin. If your serotonin is low, you are by definition depressed. So wouldn't you think that the cure would be to raise serotonin? If I'm depressed because I have low serotonin, then why don't I raise serotonin? Well, that's not what we do. You know what we do to people that are depressed? We put them on an SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitor. We take what little serotonin you have and we ration it. So by definition, it never ends depression because it never raises serotonin. And this is why I have patients come in all the time to 10X Health and say, Gary, I've been on antidepressants for 18 years. I go, when did you think it was going to kick in? So if we know that serotonin is made in the gut, there's a factory right here in the gut, and 90% of it is made in the gut before it travels up the vagus nerve to the brain, we can turn that factory back on, and in 14 days, you are no longer depressed. Because you didn't have depression, you just had low serotonin. And as soon as we fix that gene mutation, serotonin skyrockets and depression takes a back seat. So one of the things that we want to do is change the face of humanity by empowering human beings to heal themselves. Okay, so lupus, like other autoimmune diseases, is an issue where the human body loses its affinity, right, to see the difference between human tissue and foreign tissue. This happens a lot, by the way. Rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune diseases of all kinds, right? Lupus is linked to a gene mutation. In fact, if you look at ADAM-TS1, ADAM-TS1, you will see that 97.4% of lupus patients have this gene mutation. It is fixable. It is a lack of ability to break down the amino acid L-tyrosine and methionine. Write those two down. When the body doesn't have these amino acids, it not only cannot quiet the mind, which is why lupus patients are night owls and have very poor sleep, but it can't quiet the mind. It also cannot see the difference between foreign and human tissue, and so it begins to attack itself. Modern medicine puts suppressive drugs on the immune system to stop the immune system from doing its job. What we want to do is help the immune system see clearly. 52% of Americans report either suffering from anxiety on a daily basis or having suffered from anxiety at some point in their lifetime. So here's how anxiety works. Right? If you or someone you know has anxiety, I want you to ask them these three questions, and this will prove that it's not coming from your outside environment. Number one, have you had anxiety on and off throughout your entire lifetime? Usually the answer is yes, because it's a gene mutation. I'm going to get to that in a second. Number two, can you point to the specific trigger that causes it? Most of the time they will say no. I can wake up in the morning with anxiety. I can be driving home from work on an otherwise innocuous day and I can be overwhelmed by anxiety. If that happens, it's not coming from your outside environment. It's not coming from what we call a cluster of symptoms. Abraham Lincoln was diagnosed 150 years ago with depression by a cluster of symptoms. We use the same diagnosis today to diagnose people with anxiety and depression. The third thing I want you to ask them is, do anti-anxiety medications work? And they will say no. They make me feel like a zombie. Because anxiety is coming from your physiology, right? If you can't lower a compound in the human body called homocysteine, it's the most inflammatory compound in the human body. If you can't lower this compound, then you get anxiety. And this is why your anxiety is not triggered. Because when you wake up in the morning, your homocysteine level is high, anxiety is high. It has nothing to do with your outside environment. This is fixable. We recently did this with Bella Hadid. She was just at our unit in the Porsche Design Tower because she very publicly suffers from rampant anxiety. And when she came to us, we put her on a vitamin and amino acid protocol, and she hasn't had an anxiety attack in almost 4 months.